Picture this. You're crouched behind a massive boulder, your heart hammering against your ribs as you peer through the twilight mist. The year is 50,000 BCE, and you're not at the top of the food chain. You're prey. In the shadows beyond your hiding place, something massive moves with deadly purpose. Its eyes gleam with predatory intelligence, and when it opens its mouth, you see fangs longer than your forearm. This isn't a nightmare from some Hollywood monster movie. This was reality for our ancestors, a terrifying daily existence where humans weren't hunters, but the hunted. For millions of years, long before we built cities or forged weapons, our ancestors lived in constant fear of creatures so monstrous they seem like mythology today. But these predators were real. They stalked through ancient forests, prowled across ice-covered plains, and dominated ecosystems where early humans were nothing more than another menu item. These weren't ordinary predators. They were evolutionary masterpieces of death, engineered by nature to be the perfect killing machines. What would it feel like to live in a world where a single wrong step meant becoming dinner for a saber-toothed cat with fangs that could pierce your skull like tissue paper? How would you survive when giant bears the size of small cars could outrun you, and wolves larger than modern lions hunted in coordinated packs? Our ancestors faced these nightmarish realities every single day, and their struggle for survival against these prehistoric monsters shaped the very evolution of human intelligence, cooperation, and fear responses that we still carry in our DNA today. The evidence is written in fossil bones marked by massive teeth, in skulls punctured by talons, and in the scattered remains of early humans found in ancient predator dens. Scientists have uncovered a terrifying truth. For the vast majority of human evolution, we weren't the dominant species. We were prey animals, constantly looking over our shoulders, always one heartbeat away from becoming another predator's meal. Chapter 1. The leopard that stalked our ancestors. Dawn breaks over the African savanna 3 million years ago, but there's no relief in the growing light. If anything, the increasing visibility makes the danger more real. High in the branches of an ancient fig tree, a pair of golden eyes watches the small group of Australopithecus moving cautiously across the grassland below. The leopard, larger and more powerful than any that exists today, calculates distance and timing with the precision of a master assassin. This isn't just any hunt. This is the culmination of an evolutionary arms race that has been raging for millions of years, a deadly game of predator and prey that has shaped both species in ways that continue to echo through time. The leopard's muscles coil like steel springs as it prepares to drop from its perch onto one of our earliest ancestors, unaware that this single moment represents countless such attacks that have molded human evolution. Modern leopards are already formidable predators, but their ancient counterparts were evolutionary perfection when it came to hunting primates. These prehistoric leopards had evolved specifically to exploit the weaknesses of early human ancestors. Their retractable claws could find purchase on the smoothest rock faces, allowing them to scale seemingly impossible heights to reach terrified hominids who thought they were safe. Their bite force could crush bone, and their stealth was so perfect that their victims often never knew death was coming until massive fangs pierced their skulls. The evidence of this prehistoric reign of terror is preserved in the fossil record in ways that make even seasoned paleontologists uncomfortable. In 1924, researchers discovered the skull of a 3-year-old Australopithecus africanus, the famous Tong child, showing clear signs of predation. 2 precise puncture wounds in the skull match perfectly with the spacing and size of an ancient leopard's canines. But this wasn't a quick kill. Scratch marks on the bone show that the child was dragged a considerable distance, probably still alive, before being consumed. Even more chilling is the discovery of what scientists call leopard lairs. ancient caves where these big cats dragged their human prey. Inside these prehistoric death chambers, archaeologists have found hundreds of bones from our ancestors, many showing the distinctive bite marks of leopards. The bones are cracked and split in patterns consistent with being processed for marrow, suggesting these predators didn't just kill humans. They savored every part of them. The hunting strategy of these ancient leopards was horrifyingly effective. Unlike modern big cats that often rely on speed or strength, prehistoric leopards were ambush specialists. They would position themselves in trees along commonly used paths, waiting sometimes for hours until the perfect moment presented itself. When prey passed below, they would drop silently onto their victim's back, using their body weight to drive their fangs deep into the skull or spine before the victim could even cry out. What made these ancient leopards particularly terrifying to early humans was their intelligence and adaptability. Fossil evidence suggests they quickly learned human behavioral patterns, adjusting their hunting strategies to exploit human weaknesses. They discovered that humans were most vulnerable when bending down to drink water, when separated from the group during food gathering, or when traveling in the dim light of dawn and dusk. The psychological impact of living under constant threat from these super predators cannot be overstated. Modern primates still carry genetic programming that causes them to instinctively scan tree branches for leopard shapes, a survival mechanism that saved countless lives over millions of years. This same programming exists in humans today, manifesting as our reflexive fear of eyes watching us from shadows or our discomfort when we sense something lurking just outside our peripheral vision. But perhaps most terrifying of all was the leopard's patience. Unlike wolves or other pack hunters that might give up if prey escaped immediate capture, leopards would sometimes stalk the same human group for days, learning their routines and waiting for the perfect opportunity. Ancient humans reported that once a leopard marked them as prey, it would appear at the edge of their vision for days, always watching, always waiting, driving its intended victims to the brink of madness before finally striking. The relationship between humans and leopards wasn't entirely one-sided, however. As human intelligence evolved, our ancestors began developing counter-strategies. They learned to move in larger groups, to sleep in shifts with guards constantly watching, and to avoid certain areas during times when leopards were most active. This evolutionary pressure may have been one of the key factors that drove the development of human cooperation and communication skills. Yet even as humans became more sophisticated, leopards adapted as well. Some fossil evidence suggests that certain populations of ancient leopards developed pack hunting behaviors, specifically to overcome human defensive strategies. Working in coordinated pairs, one leopard would create a distraction while another attacked from an unexpected angle, a level of tactical thinking that rivals anything seen in modern predators. The reign of the leopard as humanity's primary predator lasted for millions of years, and its influence on human evolution cannot be understated. Our instinctive fear of being watched, our tendency to sleep in elevated locations, our natural wariness of dense vegetation, all of these traits were burned into our genetic code by countless generations of ancestors who lived or died based on their ability to avoid these spotted death machines. Chapter 2. When eagles carried away human children, the sky was never truly safe. While our ancestors learned to fear the shadows cast by leopards and the ground-shaking footsteps of massive bears, death could also plummet from the heavens on wings spanning twice the width of a modern eagle. High above the ancient landscapes of Africa and beyond, prehistoric eagles ruled the skies with talons, capable of crushing human skulls and beaks designed to tear flesh from bone. These weren't the eagles we know today. The giant eagles of prehistory were evolutionary marvels of predation, perfectly designed to hunt large terrestrial mammals, including our ancestors. standing over 3 feet tall with wings that could stretch nearly 10 feet from tip to tip. These aerial predators possessed a suite of adaptations that made them humanity's nightmare from above. The most terrifying of these prehistoric raptors was likely responsible for one of paleontology's most famous discoveries. The Taung child, that 3-year-old Australopithecus, whose skull showed evidence of predation, may not have fallen victim to a leopard after all. Recent analysis of the damage patterns suggests something even more frightening. The child was likely snatched by a massive eagle and carried to its nest to be consumed at leisure. Dr. Lee Berger, a renowned paleoanthropologist, has argued that the damage to the Taung child's skull is consistent with eagle predation rather than big cat attacks. The positioning of puncture wounds, the pattern of scratches, and most tellingly, the presence of the skull in an area known to have been an ancient nesting site, all point to death from above rather than ambush from the ground. The child wasn't just killed. It was transported while still alive to become food for hungry eagle chicks. Modern research has revealed just how formidable these ancient aerial predators truly were. The crowned eagle of Africa, one of the closest living relatives to these prehistoric giants, still regularly hunts primates today. Despite being significantly smaller than their ancient cousins, modern crowned eagles have been documented killing and carrying away prey weighing up to 60 pounds, including human children in rare instances. But the prehistoric versions were in an entirely different league. Fossil evidence suggests that ancient eagles possessed talons up to 4 inches long, longer than the fingers of an adult human hand. These weren't just killing tools. They were precision instruments capable of penetrating deep into tissue to sever major blood vessels or crush vital organs. The grip strength of these prehistoric raptors has been estimated at over 750 pounds per square inch, more than enough to crack ribs or collapse a skull. The hunting strategy employed by these aerial predators was perhaps even more terrifying than their physical capabilities. Unlike ground-based predators that had to get close to their prey, eagles could strike from incredible distances with devastating speed. Diving from heights of several hundred feet, these prehistoric raptors could reach speeds approaching 150 miles per hour during their attack runs. Their prey would have only seconds to react, and even then, escape was nearly impossible. What made eagle predation particularly horrifying for early humans was the complete helplessness it represented. While our ancestors could learn to avoid leopard territory or recognize the signs of approaching bears, aerial attacks offered almost no warning and virtually no defense. A shadow passing overhead might be the only indication of approaching death, and by the time that shadow was noticed, razor-sharp talons were already extended for the kill. The psychological impact of living under constant threat from aerial predators shaped human behavior in ways that persist to this day. Our instinctive fear of sudden movements overhead, our tendency to seek shelter when large birds circle above, and our discomfort in open spaces where we feel exposed. All of these responses were programmed into our ancestors by millions of years of selection pressure from aerial predators. Ancient human settlements show clear evidence of adaptations designed to protect against eagle attacks. Archaeological evidence suggests that early humans preferred to establish camps in areas with natural overhead protection, caves, dense forest canopies, or rocky overhangs that would prevent aerial predators from diving down onto them. When such natural protection wasn't available, humans learned to construct simple shelters or maintain large fires, whose smoke would discourage aerial predators. The perhaps most chilling of all is the evidence that these prehistoric eagles specifically adapted their hunting strategies to target human children. Analysis of ancient eagle nesting sites has revealed a disproportionate number of juvenile human remains compared to adult bones. This suggests that these intelligent predators quickly learned that human young were easier targets than full-grown adults, and they adjusted their hunting behavior accordingly. The fossil record shows that these eagle attacks weren't isolated incidents, but rather a consistent and significant threat to early human populations. Some estimates suggest that aerial predation may have accounted for up to 10% of all deaths among juvenile early humans, a staggering mortality rate that would have placed enormous pressure on human populations to develop effective counter-strategies. The evolutionary response to aerial predation pressure may have been one of the key factors driving the development of human social structures. Groups that could maintain constant vigilance against aerial attacks, with individuals taking turns scanning the sky for threats, had much better survival rates than those that didn't. This need for coordinated defense against aerial predators may have been one of the earliest drivers of complex human cooperation and communication. Even as humans became more sophisticated and developed primitive tools, the threat from aerial predators persisted. Unlike ground-based predators that might be deterred by fire or simple weapons, eagles could strike too quickly and from too great a distance for early human technology to be effective. It wasn't until humans developed projectile weapons capable of reaching significant heights that the balance of power finally began to shift. The legacy of humanity's ancient war with aerial predators lives on in our modern behavior and psychology. Our universal fear of being snatched away, our protective instincts toward children in open spaces, and our deep-seated association of large birds with danger all stem from millions of years of evolution under the shadow of prehistoric eagles that saw humans not as fellow creatures, but as convenient prey to be plucked from the earth whenever hunger struck. Chapter 3. The giant short-faced bear. Imagine a creature so massive that when it stood on its hind legs, it could peer through the second-story windows of modern buildings. Picture a predator so perfectly evolved for killing that its very presence could clear entire regions of other carnivores through fear alone. This wasn't mythology. This was Arctidus simus, the giant short-faced bear, and it may have been the most terrifying land predator ever to walk North America. Standing 12 feet tall on its hind legs and weighing up to a ton, the giant short-faced bear wasn't just large. It was evolutionarily designed to be the perfect killing machine. Unlike modern bears that are omnivorous and relatively peaceful unless threatened, Arctidus was built for one purpose: hunting and killing large prey. Its entire anatomy was optimized for speed, power, and lethality in ways that would have made it humanity's worst nightmare during the Ice Age. The most immediately terrifying aspect of the giant short-faced bear was its unprecedented combination of size and speed. While modern bears are relatively slow and lumber when they move, Arctidus possessed proportionally longer legs and a more streamlined build that allowed it to reach running speeds of over 40 miles per hour. To put this in perspective, imagine a creature the size of a small car bearing down on you at highway speeds, and you begin to understand the hopelessness that early humans must have felt when encountering this monster. The bear's skull provides clear evidence of its hypercarnivorous lifestyle. Unlike the broad, flat molars of modern omnivorous bears, Arctidus possessed razor-sharp, carnassial teeth designed for slicing meat and powerful canines for delivering killing bites. The massive attachment points for jaw muscles suggest a bite force that could easily crush the bones of large mammals or completely destroy a human skull with a single bite. But it was the bear's hunting strategy that made it particularly terrifying for early humans. Evidence suggests that Arctidus was an active pursuit predator rather than an ambush hunter. This means it would chase down prey over long distances, using its incredible stamina and speed to run down even the fastest animals. For early humans, this represented a form of predation that was virtually inescapable, once marked as prey by a giant short-faced bear, there was nowhere to run and nowhere to hide. The fossil record provides disturbing evidence of just how effective these prehistoric monsters were as predators. Bone beds containing the remains of multiple large mammals show signs of processing by giant short-faced bears, suggesting they were capable of bringing down prey as large as ancient bison and even juvenile mammoths. The idea that these same predators might have hunted early humans becomes even more chilling when we consider that humans would have been among the easiest prey available. Archaeological evidence suggests that the giant short-faced bear may have been directly responsible for preventing early human migration into North America for thousands of years. The Bering land bridge that connected Asia and North America was dominated by these massive predators, creating what some scientists have termed a predator barrier that early humans simply couldn't overcome. It may have taken the extinction of Arcticus before human populations could successfully establish themselves across the continent. The psychological impact of living in the shadow of such predators would have been absolutely devastating for early human communities. Modern humans have difficulty comprehending the constant terror our ancestors must have experienced knowing that creatures of such incredible size and lethality were actively hunting them. The stress of living under such predation pressure may have been a key factor driving human intelligence evolution. Only the smartest and most cooperative human groups could survive in a world dominated by giant short-faced bears. What made Arcticus particularly frightening wasn't just its physical capabilities, but its apparent intelligence and adaptability. Fossil evidence suggests these bears were capable of complex problem-solving and could adapt their hunting strategies based on the behavior of their prey. They learned to exploit human weaknesses, such as our relatively slow running speed and our tendency to panic when confronted with large predators. The bear's sensory capabilities would have made hiding from it nearly impossible for early humans. With a sense of smell many times more acute than that of modern bears, Arcticus could track human scent trails over vast distances and for extended periods. Their excellent eyesight allowed them to spot movement from miles away, and their hearing was so acute they could detect the whispered conversations of human groups from hundreds of yards away. Perhaps most terrifying of all was the giant short-faced bear's persistence. Unlike modern predators that might give up if prey proves difficult to catch, evidence suggests that Arcticus would pursue prey for days or even weeks if necessary. Early human groups might find themselves being stalked by these massive predators across hundreds of miles of terrain, with the bear patiently following and waiting for the moment when exhaustion or carelessness would make the kill possible. The hunting grounds of giant short-faced bears overlapped extensively with areas that early humans needed to access for survival. River valleys rich in resources, migration corridors used by prey animals, and coastal areas where food was abundant. This meant that humans couldn't simply avoid bear territory. They had to venture into areas where these predators actively hunted, creating a deadly game of survival where one wrong decision could mean death for an entire human group. Some fossil evidence suggests that giant short-faced bears may have even learned to recognize and specifically target human settlements. Bone deposits near ancient campsites show evidence of bear predation, and the positioning of these deposits suggests the bears may have been waiting in ambush near human habitation areas, using their intelligence to anticipate where humans would be most vulnerable. The extinction of the giant short-faced bear approximately 11,000 years ago marked the end of an era of terror for early human populations in North America. Without this massive predator dominating the landscape, human populations could finally spread and thrive across the continent. The psychological relief must have been enormous. Imagine an entire generation of humans growing up without the constant fear of being hunted by creatures that dwarfed even their worst. Chapter 4. Saber-Tooth cat's death came with a precision that was almost surgical, delivered by fangs so long they extended well below the chin like curved daggers of ivory. When early humans encountered Smilodon, the iconic saber-toothed cat, they faced a predator so perfectly evolved for killing that every aspect of its anatomy was designed to inflict maximum damage with terrifying efficiency. These weren't just big cats with unusually long teeth. They were evolutionary masterpieces of predation that turned murder into an art form. Standing at the shoulder height of a modern lion, but built with the muscular power of a bear, Smilodon possessed the physical tools necessary to hunt prey far larger than themselves, including early humans. Their most famous feature, those massive canine teeth that could reach 7 inches in length, weren't just for show. These were precision killing instruments, evolved over millions of years to deliver death with a single perfectly placed bite. The hunting strategy employed by saber-toothed cats was perhaps the most terrifying aspect of encountering one. Unlike modern big cats that often kill through suffocation or crushing bites to the throat, Smilodon used their massive canines like dual stilettos, driving them deep into vital organs or major blood vessels with surgical precision. The result was catastrophic blood loss and almost instantaneous death, assuming the victim was lucky enough to receive a killing blow rather than being crippled and left to die slowly. Fossil evidence reveals the disturbing reality of saber-tooth predation on early humans. In 2015, scientists discovered 300,000-year-old bones in Germany that show clear evidence of Smilodon predation on Homo heidelbergensis, a probable ancestor of modern humans. The bones bore the distinctive puncture marks of saber-toothed canines, and more chillingly, showed evidence that the victim had survived the initial attack long enough for the bones to begin healing, meaning they endured days or weeks of agony before finally succumbing to their injuries. What made saber-toothed cats particularly nightmarish was their incredible jaw gape. They could open their mouths to an angle of nearly 130 degrees, compared to just 65 degrees for modern big cats. This adaptation allowed them to bring their massive fangs to bear even when attacking large prey. But it also meant that when they opened their mouths in a threat display, they presented a truly horrifying sight that must have frozen early humans with terror. The psychological warfare aspect of saber-tooth predation cannot be understated. Modern research has shown that these cats were likely ambush predators that would stalk their prey for extended periods before attacking. Early humans might find themselves being followed by these magnificent killers for days, catching glimpses of golden eyes in the underbrush or finding massive paw prints near their campsites, knowing that death was patiently waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The social structure of saber-toothed cats adds another layer of terror to their predation of early humans. Evidence from the La Brie tar pits suggests that at least some species of Smilodon lived and hunted in cooperative groups, similar to modern lions. This meant that early humans weren't just facing individual predators, but potentially coordinated attacks by multiple saber-toothed cats working together, a scenario that would have been virtually impossible for primitive humans to survive. Though fossil record shows evidence of injured saber-toothed cats that survived for extended periods with broken bones and other serious injuries, indicating that they received care and food from other members of their group. This cooperative behavior would have made them even more dangerous to early humans, as wounded cats that might normally be driven away or killed by prey could continue hunting with the support of their packmates. Perhaps most disturbing is the evidence that saber-toothed cats specifically targeted human young and elderly individuals. Analysis of predation sites shows a disproportionate number of juvenile and aged human remains compared to healthy adults, suggesting these intelligent predators quickly learned to identify and exploit the most vulnerable members of human groups. They weren't just opportunistic hunters. They were strategic killers that, deliberately selected the easiest targets. The coexistence of saber-tooth cats and early humans lasted for hundreds of thousands of years, creating an evolutionary arms race that shaped both species. Humans developed better group coordination, more sophisticated tools, and enhanced communication skills, partly in response to saber-tooth predation pressure. Meanwhile, the cats became more intelligent and adaptable, learning to counter human defensive strategies and exploit new vulnerabilities. Archaeological evidence suggests that some early human groups may have developed specific rituals and behaviors designed to deter saber-tooth cats. Fire appears to have been particularly effective, as the cats seem to avoid areas with large blazes. Some human settlements show evidence of multiple fire pits arranged in defensive patterns, possibly to create barriers against saber-tooth attacks during vulnerable nighttime hours. The hunting success of saber-tooth cats was enhanced by their incredible stealth capabilities. Unlike modern big cats that often rely on speed for pursuit hunting, Smilodon was built for patience and precision. They could remain motionless for hours, perfectly camouflaged in dense vegetation, waiting for the ideal moment to launch their attack. Their prey often died without ever knowing they were being hunted. The bite force of saber-toothed cats has been calculated at over 1,000 pounds per square inch when focused through their massive canines, more than enough to punch through the skull of early humans like it was made of eggshell. But they rarely needed to use their full power. Their precision was such that they could deliver killing blows with surgical accuracy, targeting specific arteries or organs to ensure rapid death. The extinction of saber-toothed cats approximately 10,000 years ago marked the end of one of humanity's most persistent and terrifying predators. For hundreds of thousands of years, these cats had been the stuff of human nightmares, perfectly evolved killing machines that combine the stealth of shadows with the lethality of walking death. Their disappearance allowed human populations to expand and thrive in ways that have been impossible while living under the constant threat of those foot-long fangs and the predatory intelligence behind them. Chapter 5. Dire wolves. The howl that echoed across the moonlit landscape wasn't like anything heard in the modern world. Deeper, more resonant, and carrying an undertone of primal menace that sent chills down the spine of every creature within miles. This was the hunting call of the dire wolf, and it meant that death was coming not from a single predator, but from an entire coordinated pack of killers, each weighing as much as a modern lion. Dire wolves weren't simply larger versions of today's gray wolves. They were evolutionary adaptations for a different kind of world, one where mega-prey required mega-predators to hunt them down. Standing 6 feet long and weighing up to 150 pounds, these Ice Age carnivores possessed the physical tools and pack intelligence necessary to bring down prey as large as ancient bison and even juvenile mammoths. When they turned their attention to early human populations, the results were catastrophic. The fossil record from sites like the La Brie tar pits reveals the true extent of dire wolf predation during the Pleistocene epoch. Thousands of dire wolf specimens have been recovered, far outnumbering the remains of their prey species, a pattern that suggests these predators lived in massive packs that dominated entire ecosystems. When early humans entered North America roughly 15,000 years ago, they encountered landscapes where dire wolves reigned supreme as the apex predators. What made dire wolves particularly terrifying wasn't just their individual size and strength, but their sophisticated pack hunting strategies. Evidence suggests that dire wolf packs could contain dozens of individuals working together with a level of coordination that surpassed even modern gray wolves. They employed complex tactics, including flanking maneuvers, relay chasing, and coordinated ambushes that would have been virtually impossible for early humans to counter with primitive weapons and tools. The skull structure of dire wolves provides disturbing insights into their predatory capabilities. Their massive jaws were equipped with bone-crushing molars that could process even the largest bones, suggesting they didn't just kill their prey but consumed every part of it. Their canine teeth, while not as dramatically elongated as those of saber-toothed cats, were still formidable weapons capable of delivering devastating bites that could sever arteries or crush windpipes with terrifying efficiency. Archaeological evidence suggests that dire wolves may have specifically adapted their hunting strategies to target human settlements. Bone deposits found near ancient campsites show patterns consistent with pack predation, and the distribution of human remains suggests that entire family groups may have been overwhelmed by coordinated dire wolf attacks. Unlike solitary predators that might take a single victim and retreat, dire wolf packs had the numbers and coordination necessary to eliminate entire human groups. The psychological impact of living under constant threat from dire wolf packs cannot be overstated. Modern humans have difficulty comprehending the terror our ancestors must have experienced when they heard that distinctive howling in the distance, knowing it meant that a coordinated group of massive predators was actively hunting them. The stress of such constant predation pressure may have been a key factor driving the development of human cooperation and communication skills. Dire wolves possessed sensory capabilities that made hiding from them nearly impossible for early humans. Their sense of smell was extraordinarily acute, allowing them to track human scent trails over vast distances and for extended periods. They could detect the presence of human groups from miles away and coordinate their approach to ensure maximum hunting success. Their night vision was superior to that of humans, giving them a significant advantage during nighttime attacks. The hunting endurance of dire wolves was legendary. Unlike modern wolves that might give up pursuit if prey proves elusive, dire wolves were built for persistence hunting. They could maintain pursuit speeds for hours or even days, wearing down their prey through relentless pressure. Early human groups might find themselves being pursued across hundreds of miles of terrain, with the pack patiently following and waiting for exhaustion to make the kill possible. Perhaps most terrifying was the intelligence and adaptability that dire wolves displayed in their hunting strategies. Evidence suggests they quickly learned to recognize and exploit human behavioral patterns, adjusting their tactics based on how human groups responded to previous attacks. They discovered that humans were most vulnerable during certain activities, when gathering food, when traveling between camps, or when separated from the main group. The territorial range of dire wolf packs often encompassed hundreds of square miles, meaning that early human groups couldn't simply avoid wolf territory. They were constantly within the hunting grounds of multiple packs. This created a landscape of perpetual danger where humans never knew when they might encounter a coordinated attack from these massive predators. Some fossil evidence suggests that dire wolves may have developed specialized roles within their packs specifically for hunting humans. Certain individuals appear to have been scouts that would track human movements and report back to the main pack, while others served as ambush specialists that would position themselves along likely escape routes. This level of tactical sophistication in a prehistoric predator is both remarkable and terrifying. The coexistence period between dire wolves and early humans in North America was relatively brief, perhaps only a few thousand years, but it was marked by intense predation pressure that shaped both species. Humans developed more sophisticated weapons, better group coordination, and enhanced defensive strategies, partly in response to dire wolf pack hunting. Meanwhile, the wolves became even more intelligent and adaptable, creating an evolutionary arms race that continued until their extinction. The extinction of dire wolves, approximately 10,000 years ago, remains somewhat mysterious, but it coincided with major changes in North American ecosystems and the arrival of human populations with more advanced hunting technologies. Some scientists suggest that humans may have played a direct role in dire wolf extinction through competition for prey species or even direct hunting of the wolves themselves, a remarkable reversal of fortunes that saw prey become predator. The genetic legacy of dire wolves continues to fascinate scientists, with recent DNA studies revealing that they were more distantly related to modern gray wolves than previously thought. They represent a unique evolutionary lineage that was perfectly adapted for the megafauna-rich ecosystems of the Ice Age, but which couldn't adapt quickly enough to survive the rapid environmental changes that marked the end of the Pleistocene epoch. Chapter 6. Terror birds standing 8 feet tall, with a beak designed like an axe and legs that could deliver kicks capable of shattering bone. Hyenas and its relatives represented a nightmare that modern humans can barely comprehend. Flightless birds that evolved to be terrestrial apex predators. These weren't the familiar predatory birds we know today. They were evolutionary throwbacks to an age when avian dinosaurs ruled the earth through sheer physical dominance rather than aerial superiority. The terror birds, as scientists aptly named them, dominated South American ecosystems for over 40 million years before making their way into North America roughly 5 million years ago. When early human ancestors eventually encountered these creatures, they faced predators that combined the speed of a racehorse with the killing power of a dinosaur, because that's essentially what they were: dinosaurs that had never stopped being apex predators. Hyenas wallery, the most famous of the North American terror birds, stood nearly 9 feet tall and possessed a skull over 2 feet in length, most of which was composed of a massive, hooked beak capable of delivering bone-crushing blows. Unlike modern flightless birds like ostriches or emus, terror birds had evolved specifically for predation. Their beaks weren't designed for eating plants or small prey. They were precision instruments for dismembering large mammals. The hunting strategy employed by terror birds was uniquely terrifying. They were pursuit predators that relied on their incredible running speed, estimated at over 40 miles per hour, to chase down prey across open terrain. But unlike mammalian predators that killed through bites or claw strikes, terror birds used their massive beaks like medieval warhammers, delivering devastating blows that could crush skulls or break necks with a single strike. Fossil evidence provides disturbing insights into the predatory capabilities of these avian killers. Bone beds containing the remains of multiple mammal species show distinctive damage patterns consistent with terror bird predation. Skulls crushed by massive beaks, long bones snapped in half by powerful jaws, and scattered remains suggesting that prey animals were literally torn apart by these feathered monsters. The psychological impact of encountering a terror bird would have been beyond comprehension for early humans. Imagine facing a creature that stood twice your height, could outrun you effortlessly, and possessed a weapon-like beak that could split your skull open with a single blow. The terror birds represented a form of predation that was completely alien to mammalian experience. Death delivered by a creature that looked like a nightmare version of a familiar bird. What made terror birds particularly effective predators was their combination of intelligence and physical prowess. As descendants of dinosaurs, they possessed cognitive abilities that were likely superior to most mammalian predators of their era. They could plan complex hunting strategies, remember the locations of prey animals, and adapt their tactics based on the behavior of their quarry. This intelligence, combined with their devastating physical capabilities, made them nearly invincible apex predators. The anatomy of terror birds reveals just how perfectly they were adapted for killing large prey. Their neck muscles were enormously developed, allowing them to deliver strikes with their massive beaks that generated forces equivalent to being hit by a sledgehammer. Their legs were equipped with sharp talons that could grip struggling prey, while their beak delivered the killing blow. Every aspect of their body plan was optimized for efficient predation. Archaeological evidence suggests that terror birds may have specifically targeted early human populations when they became available as prey. The timing of terror bird extinction in North America roughly coincides with the arrival of more sophisticated human hunters, suggesting that these avian predators may have posed such a significant threat that early humans actively hunted them to extinction as a matter of survival. The fossil record shows that terror birds were remarkably successful predators that dominated their ecosystems for millions of years. Their hunting grounds extended across vast areas of South and North America, and they appear to have been the primary large predators in many regions. When early humans entered these territories, they encountered landscapes where 8-foot-tall predatory birds reigned supreme over all other forms of life. Perhaps most chilling is the evidence that terror birds were capable of complex problem-solving and tool use. Some fossil sites show evidence that these birds may have used rocks or other objects to help process their prey, demonstrating a level of intelligence that would have made them even more formidable opponents for early human populations. They weren't just mindless killers. They were thinking predators that could adapt and innovate. The extinction of terror birds marked the end of an evolutionary lineage that had successfully dominated terrestrial ecosystems for tens of millions of years. Their disappearance removed one of the most alien and terrifying forms of predation that early humans ever faced. Creatures that combined the familiar appearance of birds with the killing power of the most fearsome dinosaurs. When the last terror bird died, it marked the end of humanity's nightmare of death, delivered on 2 legs by a creature that looked like it had stepped directly out of the Mesozoic era. Chapter 7. Ancient crocodiles. The massive jaws that emerged from the murky water contained over 100 razor-sharp teeth, each one designed to grip and tear rather than simply crush. But what made this prehistoric crocodile truly terrifying wasn't just its aquatic hunting prowess. It was the fact that Crocodilis anthropophagus, whose name literally means man-eating crocodile, was equally at home pursuing prey on dry land as it was in the water, living 1.8 million years ago in the same regions where early human ancestors were evolving. These ancient crocodilians represented a form of predation that was both familiar and utterly alien. While modern crocodiles are formidable predators in their own right, their prehistoric relatives were evolutionary masterpieces designed specifically for hunting large terrestrial prey, including the ancestors of modern humans. Crocodilis anthropophagus grew to lengths exceeding 20 feet and possessed a skull nearly 4 feet long, filled with interlocking teeth that formed a biological bear trap from which no prey could escape. But unlike modern crocodiles that are primarily ambush predators waiting for prey to approach water sources, these ancient monsters were active pursuit predators that could chase down prey across considerable distances on land. The fossil evidence for crocodile predation on early humans is both extensive and disturbing. Bite marks on hominin fossils show the distinctive spacing and depth characteristic of crocodilian teeth, and the damage patterns suggest that many victims were caught while drinking at water sources or crossing rivers. But perhaps most chilling are the fossils that show evidence of prey being dragged long distances from water sources, indicating that these crocodiles were hunting far from their aquatic domains. What made ancient crocodiles particularly terrifying was their hunting strategy, which combined patience with explosive violence. They would position themselves near water sources that early humans needed to access for survival, remaining motionless for hours or even days until the perfect moment presented itself. When prey approached, they could launch themselves from the water with incredible speed, covering distances of up to 30 feet in a single lunge. The bite force of these prehistoric crocodiles has been estimated over 3,000 pounds per square inch. more than enough to crush the bones of any prey they encountered. But they didn't just rely on brute force. Their teeth were designed to grip and hold struggling prey while they executed their infamous death roll, a spinning maneuver that would disorient victims and tear them apart through centrifugal force. Archaeological evidence suggests that crocodile predation may have been one of the primary factors limiting early human expansion into certain regions. Areas with high concentrations of crocodile fossils show correspondingly low numbers of human remains, suggesting that our ancestors learned to avoid regions dominated by these aquatic killers. River valleys that should have been prime human habitat were instead no-go zones patrolled by monsters that could kill with a single bite. The intelligence of ancient crocodiles has been consistently underestimated by modern science. Recent research suggests that these predators were capable of complex behaviors, including tool use, cooperative hunting, and sophisticated ambush strategies. They learned human behavioral patterns and adapted their hunting methods accordingly, positioning themselves along commonly used paths to water sources and timing their attacks for maximum effectiveness. Perhaps most disturbing was the persistence of crocodile predation pressure on early human populations. Unlike mammalian predators that might move on to other hunting grounds if prey became scarce, crocodiles were tied to specific water sources that humans also needed for survival. This created an ongoing conflict where humans had to risk encounters with these massive predators every time they needed to drink, bathe, or cross water. Thought the sensory capabilities of ancient crocodiles made avoiding them nearly impossible for early humans. Their ability to detect vibrations in water and on land meant they could sense approaching prey from hundreds of yards away. Their excellent low-light vision gave them a significant advantage during dawn and dusk hours when humans were most likely to approach water sources. Most terrifying of all, they could remain motionless and nearly undetectable until the moment they chose to strike. Some fossil evidence suggests that certain populations of ancient crocodiles may have developed pack hunting behaviors, specifically to overwhelm larger prey. Bone beds containing multiple crocodile individuals near human remains hint at the possibility that these predators sometimes worked together to bring down prey that would have been too large for a single individual to handle. A nightmare scenario for any early human unlucky enough to encounter such cooperation. The coexistence period between ancient crocodiles and early humans lasted for over 1 million years, creating an evolutionary arms race that shaped both species. Humans developed better tools for defense, more sophisticated methods for approaching water sources safely, and enhanced group coordination when venturing near crocodile territory. Meanwhile, the crocodiles became even more effective predators, learning to exploit human vulnerabilities and adapt to human defensive strategies. The psychological impact of living under constant threat from aquatic predators cannot be overstated. Modern humans still carry genetic programming that makes us instinctively wary of murky water and hesitant to approach water sources without carefully scanning for danger. These responses were burned into our DNA by countless generations of ancestors who survived crocodile encounters through caution and vigilance. Chapter 8. Cave hyenas. The laughter that echoed through the darkness wasn't human. It was something far more sinister, a vocalization that combined the social communication of a pack hunter with an undertone of madness that chilled the blood. This was the call of Crocuta spelea, the cave hyena, and it meant that nowhere was truly safe for early humans, not even the deepest recesses of the caves they called home. Cave hyenas weren't simply larger versions of their modern counterparts. They were evolutionary adaptations for a world where competition for resources was so intense that only the most efficient scavengers and predators could survive. Standing 4 feet at the shoulder and weighing up to 190 pounds, These Ice Age carnivores possessed the physical tools and pack intelligence necessary to hunt prey as large as cave bears, and they weren't shy about adding humans to their menu. The fossil record from European cave sites tells a disturbing story of human-hyena interaction during the Pleistocene epoch. In cave after cave, archaeologists have found evidence that hyenas didn't just scavenge human remains. They actively hunted humans who had sought shelter in what they thought were safe refuges. Bite marks on human bones show that hyenas weren't content to wait for humans to die naturally. They were willing to kill for their meals. What made cave hyenas particularly terrifying was their ability to follow humans into their most secure hiding places. While other predators might be deterred by fire or the confined spaces of cave systems, hyenas were perfectly adapted for hunting in underground environments. Their powerful jaws could crush bones in spaces too narrow for larger predators to maneuver, and their pack hunting strategies were ideally suited for coordinated attacks in confined spaces. The bone-crushing capabilities of cave hyenas were legendary among Ice Age fauna. Their massive premolars could generate bite forces exceeding 1,000 pounds per square inch, allowing them to crack open the largest bones to access nutrient-rich marrow. When they turned this bone-crushing power against human prey, the results were catastrophic. Skulls crushed like eggshells, limb bones snapped in half, and entire skeletons reduced to fragments. Archaeological evidence suggests that cave hyenas may have specifically targeted human children and elderly individuals who were less capable of defending themselves. Analysis of bone assemblages from cave sites shows a disproportionate number of juvenile and aged human remains compared to healthy adults, indicating that these intelligent predators quickly learned to identify and exploit the most vulnerable members of human groups. The hunting strategy employed by cave hyenas was uniquely adapted for enclosed spaces. They would work as coordinated packs to surround and overwhelm their prey, using the confines of cave systems to their advantage by blocking escape routes and forcing victims into dead-end passages. Their victims often died not from a single killing bite, but from the accumulated trauma of multiple attackers working together to bring them down. Perhaps most disturbing is the evidence that cave hyenas may have learned to recognize and exploit human behavioral patterns. Fossil sites show concentrations of hyena remains near the entrances to caves known to have been used by human groups, suggesting that these predators stationed themselves at cave mouths to ambush humans as they entered or left their shelters. They transformed the very refuges humans relied on for safety into deadly traps. The intelligence of cave hyenas is evidenced by their sophisticated denning behaviors and their ability to modify cave environments to suit their needs. They would clear out debris to create larger hunting and feeding areas, establish specific zones for different activities, and even appear to have created crude storage areas for catching excess food. This level of environmental modification suggests cognitive abilities that would have made them formidable opponents for early humans. The social structure of cave hyena packs added another layer of terror to their predation methods. Led by dominant females who were larger and more aggressive than males, these packs could contain dozens of individuals working together with military-like precision. When such a force focused its attention on a human group sheltering in a cave system, the outcome was rarely in doubt. Fossil evidence shows that the competition between humans and cave hyenas for shelter sites was intense and often deadly. Some cave systems show alternating layers of human and hyena occupation, suggesting that control of these valuable refuges changed hands repeatedly as each species drove out the other through violence. The bones scattered through these contested caves tell stories of battles fought in absolute darkness, with crude human weapons pitted against bone-crushing jaws. The psychological warfare aspect of cave hyena predation cannot be understated. Their distinctive vocalizations, that eerie laughter mixed with whoops and growls, would echo through cave systems for hours before an attack, creating a psychological pressure that must have been nearly unbearable for human groups trapped in confined spaces with no means of escape. The extinction of cave hyenas approximately 11,000 years ago marked the end of one of humanity's most persistent and adaptable predators. For hundreds of thousands of years, these bone-crushing pack hunters had contested every cave, every shelter, and every safe refuge that humans tried to claim. Their disappearance finally allowed human populations to fully utilize cave systems as secure bases of operation, contributing to the rapid expansion of human culture and technology that marked the end of the Paleolithic era. Chapter 9. Giant Snakes. There was no sound, no warning, no chance to scream. One moment you were gathering berries at the forest edge, and the next, coils thicker than your torso were crushing your ribs, driving the air from your lungs as a head. The size of a horse's skull positioned massive fangs inches from your face. This was death by constrictor, slow, methodical, and absolutely inescapable. Once those muscular coils began their inexorable squeeze, thought the giant snakes of prehistory weren't just larger versions of modern species. They were evolutionary marvels that had perfected the art of silent killing over millions of years. Species like the massive pythons and boas of the Ice Age could reach lengths of over 30 feet and possess the muscular power necessary to crush prey as large as ancient horses. When they encountered early human populations, they found victims perfectly sized for their preferred hunting methods. Modern reticulated pythons, the largest snakes alive today, still pose a significant threat to human populations in Southeast Asia, with documented cases of people being killed and consumed by these massive constrictors. But their prehistoric relatives were in an entirely different league of lethality. Fossil evidence suggests that some Ice Age constrictors may have reached lengths approaching 40 feet, with proportional increases in their crushing power and hunting capabilities. The hunting strategy employed by giant, prehistoric constrictors was perhaps the most psychologically terrifying form of predation that early humans encountered. Unlike predators that killed quickly through bites or claw strikes, constrictors killed slowly and methodically, maintaining contact with their prey throughout the entire death process. Victims remained conscious and aware as their bones were systematically crushed, and their breathing was slowly restricted until consciousness finally faded. Archaeological evidence for snake predation on early humans is difficult to preserve due to the nature of constrictor feeding behavior, but what evidence exists is deeply disturbing. Bone assemblages from cave sites occasionally show patterns of crushing damage consistent with constrictor coils, and the scattered nature of some skeletal remains suggests that victims were slowly compressed and manipulated during the killing process. What made giant constrictors particularly effective predators was their incredible stealth capabilities. They could remain motionless for weeks at a time, perfectly camouflaged in vegetation or rocky outcroppings, waiting for the perfect prey animal to pass within striking range. Their heat-sensing abilities allowed them to detect warm-blooded prey from considerable distances, and their patience was literally infinite. They would wait as long as necessary for the right opportunity. The strike speed of large constrictors is nearly impossible for human reflexes to counter. Modern large pythons can strike at speeds approaching 15 miles per hour across distances of up to half their body length, meaning a 30-foot prehistoric constrictor could have launched surprise attacks from 15 feet away faster than any human could react. By the time the victim realized they were under attack, powerful coils would already be wrapping around their body. Perhaps most terrifying was the intelligence that giant constrictors displayed in their hunting strategies. Evidence suggests they were capable of learning human behavioral patterns and positioning themselves accordingly. They would stake out water sources, game trails, and even human campsites, using their knowledge of human habits to maximize their hunting success. Some may have even learned to recognize specific individual humans and target them persistently. The constricting method of killing employed by these prehistoric giants was brutally efficient. Each time their victim exhaled, the coils would tighten, slightly preventing full reinflation of the lungs. Gradually, breathing would become more and more difficult until the victim could no longer draw sufficient air to remain conscious. Death typically came through circulatory collapse rather than suffocation, as the pressure around the torso prevented blood from returning to the heart. Fossil evidence suggests that some prehistoric constrictors may have been semi-aquatic, combining the stealth advantages of water-based ambush hunting with the killing power of terrestrial constrictors. Early humans approaching rivers or lakes for water would have been particularly vulnerable to these aquatic ambush specialists, who could strike from underwater and then drag their victims beneath the surface while simultaneously crushing them to death. The size of the largest prehistoric constrictors would have allowed them to consume adult humans whole, and evidence from modern large python feeding behavior suggests they probably did exactly that. Unlike mammalian predators that dismember their prey, constrictors swallow their victims intact, meaning that people who fell victim to these giant snakes simply vanished without a trace, leaving no remains for their families to find or bury. The psychological impact of living under threat from giant constrictors was uniquely traumatic for early human populations. The knowledge that death could strike silently from any patch of vegetation, any rocky outcropping, or any body of water created a constant state of hypervigilance that must have been mentally and physically exhausting. Every rustling bush, every shadow that seemed slightly out of place, could conceal a predator capable of crushing the life from a human body in minutes. Some anthropological evidence suggests that the threat from giant constrictors may have been one of the primary drivers behind early human technological development. The need for tools and weapons capable of cutting through massive snake coils may have accelerated the development of sharp-edged implements, while the requirement for group cooperation in detecting and fighting off snake attacks may have contributed to the evolution of complex human communication systems. The extinction of the largest prehistoric constrictors removed one of the most psychologically traumatic forms of predation that early humans ever faced. Modern humans retain an instinctive fear of snakes that far exceeds the actual threat posed by most species, a genetic legacy of millions of years of evolution under pressure from massive constrictors that could kill silently, slowly, and with absolutely no possibility of escape once their coils began to tighten. Chapter 10. Pack Hunting Hyenas. Sound that drifted across the African night was perhaps the most psychologically disturbing noise early humans ever had to endure. The maniacal laughter of giant hyenas coordinating a pack hunt. But these weren't the scavenging hyenas of modern Africa. These were Piscicrocuta, short-faced hyenas the size of lions, with bone-crushing jaws and the pack intelligence necessary to bring down prey far larger than themselves, including our ancestors, standing over 4 feet at the shoulder and weighing up to 400 pounds. Piscicrocuta brevirostris was the largest hyena that ever lived, and it was specifically adapted for hunting rather than scavenging. With jaws powerful enough to crush the thigh bone of a mammoth and pack hunting strategies that rivaled those of wolves, these prehistoric monsters represented a form of coordinated predation that early humans were woefully unprepared to counter. The fossil record shows that these giant hyenas coexisted with early human species for over 2 million years, creating one of the longest-running predator-prey relationships in human evolutionary history. Sites across Africa and Eurasia contain evidence of hyena predation on human ancestors, with distinctive bite marks on bones that tell stories of pack attacks. where multiple hyenas worked together to overwhelm human groups. What made pack hunting hyenas particularly terrifying was their combination of intelligence, coordination, and raw physical power. Unlike solitary predators that relied on individual strength or stealth, hyena packs employed sophisticated group tactics that included flanking maneuvers, coordinated ambush, and relay hunting strategies where tired pack members would be replaced by fresh hunters to maintain pursuit over vast distances. The bone-crushing capabilities of giant hyenas were unmatched among prehistoric predators. Their massive premolars could generate bite forces exceeding 1,500 pounds per square inch, allowing them to crack open the largest bones to access nutrient-rich marrow. When this bone-crushing power was applied to human prey, the results were catastrophic. Entire skeletons reduced to fragments, skulls crushed beyond recognition, and bones processed so thoroughly that little evidence of the attack remained. Archaeological evidence suggests that hyena packs may have specifically targeted human settlements during nighttime raids. The layout of some early human campsites shows evidence of hasty abandonment, with tools and food scattered as if the occupants fled in panic. Hyena tooth marks on bones found at these sites indicate that the predators didn't just scavenge abandoned camps. They actively hunted the humans who lived there. The hunting strategy employed by giant hyena packs was uniquely adapted to overwhelm human defensive capabilities. They would approach from multiple directions simultaneously, using their superior numbers to prevent humans from forming effective defensive formations. Their incredible endurance allowed them to maintain attacks for hours, gradually wearing down human resistance until exhaustion made escape impossible. Perhaps most disturbing was the intelligence that hyena packs displayed in their hunting methods. They appeared capable of complex planning and coordination, with different pack members taking on specialized roles during hunts. Some individuals served as scouts to track prey movements. Others acted as drivers to force prey toward waiting ambush groups, and still others specialized in delivering killing bites once prey was overwhelmed. The social structure of hyena packs, dominated by larger and more aggressive females, created a particularly efficient hunting machine. Unlike the loose social structures of some pack hunters, hyena groups were tightly organized hierarchies, where every individual knew their role and followed orders without question. When such a disciplined force turned its attention to hunting humans, the outcome was rarely in doubt. Fossil evidence shows that hyena packs were capable of bringing down prey far larger than individual pack members, including ancient elephants and rhinoceroses. The same tactics that allowed them to kill such massive animals would have been devastatingly effective against human groups who lacked the size, strength, or natural weapons necessary to defend against coordinated pack attacks. The vocalizations of hunting hyena packs served both to coordinate attacks and to terrorize prey. That distinctive maniacal laughter wasn't just random noise. It was a sophisticated communication system that allowed pack members to signal their positions, coordinate movements, and maintain group cohesion during complex hunting maneuvers. For early humans, those sounds meant that a coordinated death squad was closing in. The persistence of hyena pack hunting was legendary among prehistoric predators. Once a pack marked a particular human group as prey, they would sometimes pursue them for days or even weeks, using their superior endurance to gradually wear down their quarry. Early humans might find themselves being stalked across hundreds of miles of terrain, with hyena laughter echoing in the distance as the pack patiently waited for exhaustion to make the kill possible. The competition between hyena packs and early human groups for resources was intense and often deadly. Both species preferred similar habitats, hunted similar prey, and competed for the same cave systems and water sources. Archaeological evidence suggests that some regions changed hands repeatedly between humans and hyenas. with each species driving out the other through superior numbers or tactical advantages. The extinction of giant pack-hunting hyenas marked the end of one of humanity's most persistent and organized predators. For over 2 million years, these coordinated killing machines had stalked human ancestors across Africa and Eurasia, using pack intelligence and bone-crushing power to maintain pressure on early human populations. Their disappearance removed a major evolutionary pressure that had shaped human cooperation, communication, and defensive strategies for countless generations. Chapter 11. American lions in the vast grasslands of Ice Age North America, where mammoths thundered across endless prairies and dire wolves hunted in massive packs. There prowled a predator so magnificent and terrible that it dwarfed all other cats that had ever lived. Panthera atrox, the American lion, stood 4 feet tall at the shoulder and stretched nearly 12 feet from nose to tail, making it the largest cat that ever stalked the earth. When early humans finally crossed the Bering Land Bridge into the Americas, they encountered a predator that had been perfecting the art of killing for over 300,000 years. The American lion wasn't just a bigger version of its African cousin. It was an evolutionary masterpiece designed for hunting the megafauna of the Pleistocene epoch. Weighing up to 500 pounds, these cats possessed the physical tools necessary to bring down prey as large as ancient bison, young mammoths, and even giant ground sloths. When they turned their attention to the newly arrived human populations, they found prey that was perfectly sized for their hunting preferences and woefully unprepared for the level of predation they were about to face. The fossil record from sites like the La Brie tar pits reveals the true dominance of American lions in Ice Age ecosystems. Over 80 individual lions have been recovered from this single site, indicating that these predators lived in social groups similar to modern African lions, but with the added advantage of much larger individual size and strength. When early humans encountered prides of these massive cats, they faced coordinated attacks from predators that each weighed as much as 3 modern lions. What made American lions particularly terrifying for early human populations was their combination of size, intelligence, and social hunting strategies. Unlike solitary cats that might take a single victim and retreat, lion prides could coordinate attacks that would eliminate entire human groups in a matter of minutes. Their roars, estimated to have been audible from over 5 miles away, would have served as psychological warfare that announced the presence of apex predators to any humans within hearing range. The hunting strategy employed by American lion prides was devastatingly effective against human prey. They would use coordinated ambush tactics, with some pride members driving prey toward waiting ambush groups while others positioned themselves to cut off escape routes. Early humans, lacking the speed to outrun these cats or the weapons necessary to fight them off, would have been helpless once a pride decided to make them the target of a coordinated hunt. Archaeological evidence suggests that American lions may have specifically adapted their hunting strategies to exploit human behavioral patterns. Bone deposits near ancient campsites show evidence of lion predation, and the positioning of these deposits indicates that the cats learned to stake out human settlements, waiting for opportunities to attack individuals who ventured away from the protection of the group or who were caught in vulnerable positions during daily activities. The bite force of American lions has been estimated at over 1,200 pounds per square inch, delivered through massive canine teeth that could penetrate deep into tissue to sever major blood vessels or crush vital organs. But they didn't just rely on brute force. Their precision was such that they could deliver killing bites with surgical accuracy, targeting the neck or skull to ensure rapid death of their prey. Perhaps most disturbing is the evidence that American lion prides may have engaged in surplus killing when they encountered large groups of humans. Fossil sites occasionally show evidence of multiple human deaths that appear to have occurred simultaneously, suggesting that lions sometimes killed more prey than they could immediately consume, behavior that indicates these predators saw humans as relatively easy targets that were worth killing, even when not immediately needed for food. The territorial range of American lion prides often encompassed hundreds of square miles, meaning that early human groups couldn't simply avoid lion territory. They were constantly within the hunting grounds of multiple prides. This created a landscape where humans lived in constant danger from predators that could appear anywhere, at any time, with the numbers and coordination necessary to overwhelm any human defensive efforts. The coexistence period between American lions and early humans in North America was relatively brief, but marked by intense predation pressure. Archaeological evidence suggests that human populations remained small and widely scattered during this period, possibly due in part to the constant threat posed by these massive predators. Only after the extinction of American lions did human populations begin to expand and establish the larger, more permanent settlements that would characterize later Native American cultures. The extinction of American lions approximately 11,000 years ago removed North America's largest and most dangerous predator, finally allowing human populations to fully exploit the continent's resources without living under constant threat from cats the size of small horses. Their disappearance marked the end of an era when humans were definitively not the apex predators in their environment, but rather prey animals struggling to survive in a world dominated by creatures that could kill them as easily as swatting a fly. Chapter 12. Cave bears. The massive paw print pressed into the soft cave floor was nearly twice the size of a human hand, with claw marks extending several inches beyond the pad impressions. This wasn't the track of any ordinary bear. It was the signature of Ursus spelaeus, the cave bear, a creature so massive that it made modern grizzly bears look like cubs. Despite their popular image as gentle giants that preferred plant matter to meat, the fossil record tells a much darker story about these ice-age monsters and their relationship with early human populations. Standing over 4 feet at the shoulder, went on all fours and reaching heights of up to 10 feet when reared on their hind legs, cave bears were among the largest predators of the Pleistocene epoch. Males could weigh over 1,000 pounds, making them comparable in size to the largest modern polar bears, but with proportionally more massive skulls and more powerful jaws designed for processing a variety of food sources, including human flesh. When the opportunity presented itself, the name cave bear comes from the thousands of fossils found in cave systems across Europe, where these massive creatures sought shelter during hibernation periods and harsh weather. But these same caves were also used by early human populations, creating a deadly competition for limited shelter space that often resulted in violent confrontations between humans and bears that could weigh 10 times as much as an adult person. Archaeological evidence from European cave sites reveals disturbing patterns of human-bear interaction during the Middle and Late Pleistocene. Human remains found in cave bear dens show distinctive bite marks and bone damage consistent with bear attacks, while the positioning of human bones suggests that some individuals were dragged deep into cave systems where they were consumed at leisure by these massive predators. What made cave bears particularly dangerous to early humans wasn't just their incredible size and strength, but their territorial nature regarding cave systems. These bears would aggressively defend their chosen hibernation sites from any intruders, including human groups seeking shelter from harsh ice age conditions. The confined spaces of cave systems meant that humans had no room to maneuver when confronted by an angry 1,000-pound bear with claws longer than human fingers. The fossil record shows that cave bears possessed massive skulls with powerful jaw, muscles capable of generating bite forces exceeding 1,500 pounds per square inch, Their teeth, while adapted for an omnivorous diet, included formidable canines and bone-crushing molars that could easily dismember human prey. The wear patterns on cave bear teeth from sites where human remains are also found suggest that these bears didn't hesitate to include human flesh in their diet when available. Perhaps most terrifying was the intelligence that cave bears displayed in their interactions with humans. Evidence suggests they learned to recognize human scent trails and would sometimes wait in ambush near cave entrances for humans attempting to enter or leave shelter sites. Their excellent memory allowed them to return to previously successful hunting locations, making certain caves deadly traps for any humans who tried to use them for shelter. The hibernation behavior of cave bears created a particularly dangerous situation for early human populations. During the depths of Ice Age winters, when humans desperately needed shelter from freezing temperatures and howling winds, the best cave systems were often occupied by hibernating bears that would react with extreme aggression to any disturbance. Humans faced a deadly choice: freeze to death in the open or risk awakening a monster that could kill them with a single swipe of its massive paws. Archaeological evidence suggests that some human groups may have developed specialized strategies for dealing with cave bear occupation of valuable shelter sites. Tools found in cave systems show evidence of being used as spears or pikes, possibly for keeping bears at a distance, while fire-damaged areas near cave entrances suggest that humans use large blazes to discourage bear occupation or to smoke out bears that had already claimed a cave. The competition between humans and cave bears for resources extended beyond just shelter sites. Both species hunted similar prey animals and competed for access to the same food sources, creating ongoing conflicts that often resulted in deadly encounters. Cave bears were opportunistic feeders that wouldn't hesitate to steal kills from human hunting parties, often driving away the humans through sheer intimidation and claiming the meat for themselves. Some fossil evidence suggests that cave bears may have specifically targeted human children and elderly individuals who would have been less capable of defending themselves or escaping quickly enough to avoid attack. Bone assemblages from cave sites show disproportionate numbers of juvenile and aged human remains compared to healthy adults, indicating that these intelligent predators quickly learn to identify the most vulnerable members of human groups. The seasonal movements of cave bear populations created additional hazards for early human communities. During autumn months, when bears were actively seeking hibernation sites, human settlements near cave systems would have been under constant threat from massive bears scouting for suitable winter quarters. The bears' excellent sense of smell would have allowed them to detect human presence from considerable distances, often leading to confrontations where humans were vastly outmatched. The psychological impact of living under constant threat from cave bears cannot be understated. Modern humans have difficulty comprehending the terror that early populations must have experienced when they heard the distinctive sounds of a massive bear moving through a cave system. The scraping of claws on stone, the rumbling vocalizations, the heavy breathing of a creature that could kill them without effort. The extinction of cave bears, approximately 24,000 years ago, removed one of Europe's most dangerous predators and finally allowed human populations to fully utilize cave systems for shelter without the constant threat of encountering monsters that could crush human skulls like eggshells. Their disappearance marked a turning point in human survival strategies, as caves could finally become safe havens rather than potential death traps guarded by creatures from humanity's worst nightmares. Chapter 13: Komodo dragons and their prehistoric relatives on the remote island of Flores in Indonesia, where early humans first encountered creatures that seemed to have stepped directly out of the age of dinosaurs. Death came not with claws or crushing jaws, but with a bite that delivered a cocktail of toxins designed to bring down prey many times larger than the predator itself. The Komodo dragon and its even more massive prehistoric relatives represented a form of predation that was both ancient and sophisticated. Patient stalking followed by envenomation that would slowly and agonizingly kill victims over the course of days or weeks. Modern Komodo dragons, the largest lizards alive today, can grow to over 10 feet in length and weigh up to 200 pounds, making them formidable predators capable of taking down prey as large as water buffalo. But their prehistoric relatives were even more impressive specimens. Megalania prisca, which lived in Australia until approximately 50,000 years ago, reached lengths of over 20 feet and possessed all the hunting capabilities of modern monitor lizards, scaled up to truly monstrous proportions. The fossil record shows that these giant monitor lizards coexisted with early human populations in several regions, including the Indonesian archipelago, where diminutive Homo floresiensis, the so-called hobbits, lived until approximately 50,000 years ago. Archaeological evidence suggests that these early humans were regularly preyed upon by giant monitor lizards that saw them as appropriately sized prey items for their hunting strategies. What made these prehistoric monitor lizards particularly terrifying wasn't just their size, but their hunting methodology. Unlike mammals that typically kill their prey quickly through suffocation or trauma, monitor lizards are patient predators that use a combination of physical damage and envenomation to slowly wear down their victims. A single bite from a large monitor could deliver bacteria and toxins that would cause systemic infection and blood poisoning, leading to a slow and agonizing death over the course of days or weeks. The bite of large monitor lizards contains a complex mixture of anticoagulants, vasodilators, and muscle relaxants that work together to prevent blood clotting and cause massive internal hemorrhaging. Victims of monitor lizard bites don't just die from the initial wound. They slowly bleed to death from the inside as their blood loses its ability to clot and their blood vessels dilate to dangerous levels. Archaeological evidence from Indonesian cave sites shows human remains with distinctive bite marks that match the dental patterns of large monitor lizards. The positioning of these bite marks, often on the limbs rather than vital organs, suggests that the lizards employed their characteristic hunting strategy, delivering a crippling bite and then patiently following the victim until the venom and bacteria took effect and the prey became too weak to continue fleeing. The intelligence of large monitor lizards is often underestimated, but they are among the most cognitively advanced reptiles on Earth. They are capable of complex problem solving, can recognize individual humans, and can learn and adapt their hunting strategies based on the behavior of their prey. This intelligence would have made them particularly effective predators of early humans, as they could learn human behavioral patterns and adjust their hunting tactics accordingly. Perhaps most disturbing is the evidence that some prehistoric monitor lizards may have been semi-aquatic, combining the stealth advantages of water-based hunting with their venomous bite capabilities. Early humans approaching rivers or coastal areas would have been vulnerable to these aquatic ambush predators that could strike from the water and then retreat. While their venom took effect on the unfortunate victim, the hunting strategy employed by large monitor lizards was uniquely psychological in its impact on prey species. Unlike predators that killed quickly, monitors would often bite their prey and then follow them for days or weeks, maintaining visual contact while the victim slowly weakened and died. Early humans who survived initial monitor attacks would have faced the horrifying knowledge that they were being stalked by a patient killer waiting for them to become too weak to defend themselves. The fossil record suggests that some prehistoric monitor lizards were capable of climbing trees and rocky outcroppings, eliminating many of the refuges that early humans might have used to escape ground-based predators. Their excellent swimming abilities meant that water barriers offered no protection either, creating a situation where humans had very few options for escaping once They had been marked as prey by these patient predators. The social behavior of large monitor lizards added another dimension to their predatory threat. While not pack hunters in the traditional sense, monitors are known to congregate around large food sources and will sometimes engage in cooperative feeding behaviors. Early human settlements might attract multiple monitors, creating situations where humans faced attacks from several of these massive, venomous lizards simultaneously. The seasonal movements of monitor lizard populations would have created additional hazards for early human communities. During breeding seasons or when following migrating prey animals, large numbers of monitors might pass through areas normally considered safe for human habitation. Their excellent sense of smell would have allowed them to detect human settlements from considerable distances, often leading to concentrated predation events that could devastate small human populations. The extinction of the largest prehistoric monitor lizards removed one of the most psychologically traumatic forms of predation that early humans ever faced. The knowledge that a single bite could lead to weeks of slow, agonizing death while being stalked by a patient predator must have created levels of anxiety and paranoia that modern humans can barely comprehend. Their disappearance allowed human populations to expand into regions that had previously been too dangerous for sustained human habitation. Chapter 14: Marsupial Lions and Thylacoleo, the ancient landscapes of Pleistocene Australia, where giant kangaroos bounded across vast plains and massive wombats the size of cars foraged in primeval forests. There lurked a predator so alien and unexpected that it challenged everything scientists thought they knew about mammalian evolution. Thylacoleo carnifex, the marsupial lion, was nature's experiment in creating the perfect killing machine from the most unlikely evolutionary starting point, a plant-eating marsupial that transformed itself into one of the most efficient predators ever to walk the earth. Standing 3 feet at the shoulder and weighing up to 350 pounds, Thylacoleo possessed the most powerful bite of any mammal that ever lived relative to its body size. Its massive skull housed jaw muscles that could generate bite forces exceeding 2,500 pounds per square inch, enough to crush the bones of the largest prey animals, and certainly more than sufficient to completely destroy a human skull with a single bite. But what made the marsupial lion truly terrifying wasn't just its incredible bite force. It was the evolutionary modifications that turned this descendant of wombat-like herbivores into a precision killing machine. Its front teeth had evolved into massive bolt cutters capable of shearing through bone and sinew, while its claws had become retractable like those of a cat, allowing it to climb trees and rocky outcroppings with ease despite its considerable bulk. The fossil record shows that Thylacoleo coexisted with early human populations in Australia for at least 10,000 years, and possibly much longer. Archaeological evidence suggests that these marsupial predators were responsible for significant predation pressure on early human populations, with distinctive bite marks on human bones, indicating that marsupial lions didn't just scavenge human remains. They actively hunted humans as preferred prey. What made encounters with marsupial lions particularly horrifying was their hunting strategy, which combined the ambush tactics of big cats with the bone-crushing capabilities of hyenas. They were excellent climbers that could position themselves in trees or on rocky ledges above commonly used paths, dropping down onto unsuspecting prey with devastating effect. Their retractable claws allowed them to grip struggling victims while their massive jaws delivered killing bites that could sever a human spine or crush a skull in seconds. The intelligence of marsupial lions was evidenced by their sophisticated hunting behaviors and their ability to adapt to different prey species. Fossil evidence suggests they were capable of complex problem-solving and could modify their hunting strategies based on the behavior of their quarry. When early humans arrived in Australia, these adaptable predators quickly learned to exploit human vulnerabilities, and developed specific tactics for hunting bipedal primates. Archaeological sites across Australia show evidence of marsupial lion predation on early human populations, with bone assemblages that tell stories of ambush attacks and precision killing. The positioning of bite marks on human remains suggests that these predators specifically targeted the neck and head regions, using their massive jaws to deliver instantly fatal wounds that would have given their victims no chance to fight back or escape. Perhaps most disturbing is the evidence that marsupial lions may have been partially arboreal predators that could pursue prey through the trees as well as on the ground. Their climbing abilities would have eliminated many of the refuges that early humans might have used to escape ground-based predators, creating a three-dimensional hunting environment where no location was truly safe from these adaptable killers. The fossil record shows that some marsupial lions may have reached sizes even larger than Thylacoleo carnifex, with fragmentary remains suggesting individuals that could have weighed over 400 pounds. These giants would have been among the most formidable predators ever to hunt early human populations, combining massive size with the precision killing tools that made all marsupial lions so effective at dispatching prey. The hunting success of marsupial lions was enhanced by their ability to process their kills with maximum efficiency. Their specialized teeth could strip meat from bones faster than any other predator, while their powerful jaws could crack open even the largest bones to access nutrient-rich marrow. This efficiency meant that they could consume human prey quickly and completely, often leaving little evidence of their predatory activities. The territorial behavior of marsupial lions would have created additional hazards for early human populations, trying to establish settlements in prime habitat areas. These predators were known to defend their hunting territories aggressively, attacking any intruders that entered their domain. Early human groups might find themselves under assault, not because they were immediate prey targets, but simply because they had wandered into areas that marsupial lions considered their exclusive hunting grounds. The coexistence period between marsupial lions and early humans in Australia represents one of the most intense predator-prey relationships in human evolutionary history. Archaeological evidence suggests that human populations remained small and highly mobile during this period, possibly due in part to the constant threat posed by these impossible predators that combined the stealth of cats with the bone-crushing power of the most formidable carnivores. The extinction of marsupial lions approximately 35,000 years ago removed Australia's most dangerous predator and allowed human populations to expand and develop the rich cultural traditions that would characterize Aboriginal Australian societies. Their disappearance marked the end of an era when humans shared the continent with predators so perfectly adapted for killing that they seemed to have been designed by nature specifically to hunt and consume human prey. Chapter 15. Giant ground sloths and the twisted logic of prehistoric ecosystems. Some of the most terrifying predators weren't dedicated carnivores at all, but massive herbivores that had been driven to desperate measures by changing environmental conditions and food scarcity. Megatherium and other giant ground sloths, creatures that could reach the size of elephants and possess claws longer than human forearms, represented a form of predation that was both unexpected and absolutely horrifying. Plant eaters that had learned to hunt and consume human prey. Standing up to 12 feet tall when reared on their hind legs and weighing as much as 4 tons, giant ground sloths were among the largest land mammals of the Pleistocene epoch. Their massive claws, originally evolved for stripping bark from trees and digging for roots, proved equally effective at dismembering human prey when these desperate giants turned to meat eating during periods of environmental stress and resource scarcity. The fossil record shows that giant ground sloths coexisted with early human populations across both North and South America for thousands of years. with archaeological evidence suggesting a complex relationship that evolved from cautious coexistence to active predation as environmental conditions deteriorated and competition for resources intensified. What made encounters with carnivorous ground sloths particularly nightmarish was the sheer impossibility of the threat they represented. Early humans had evolved defensive strategies for dealing with traditional predators like cats and bears, but nothing in their evolutionary experience had prepared them for attacks by massive herbivores that could tear them apart with claws designed for processing plant matter. Archaeological evidence from sites across the Americas shows human remains with distinctive damage patterns consistent with ground sloth attacks. The massive claws of these creatures could inflict wounds that were both instantly fatal and grotesquely traumatic, literally tearing humans apart with single swipes. The sheer size differential meant that adult humans were helpless against ground sloths that could weigh 50 times as much and stood twice as tall. The hunting strategy employed by carnivorous ground sloths was uniquely terrifying in its simplicity and effectiveness. These massive creatures would rear up on their hind legs to achieve maximum height and reach, then use their enormous claws to strike downward at human prey with devastating force. The attacks were so powerful that they could literally split a human body in half or decapitate victims with a single blow. Perhaps most disturbing is the evidence that some giant ground sloths may have developed a taste for human flesh and actively sought out human settlements as feeding grounds. Bone deposits near ancient campsites show patterns of ground sloth predation that suggest these creatures learned to associate human presence with easy feeding opportunities, returning repeatedly to the same locations to hunt human prey. The intelligence of giant ground sloths has been consistently underestimated by researchers, but evidence suggests they were capable of complex problem solving and could adapt their behaviors based on environmental conditions. When traditional food sources became scarce, some populations appear to have quickly learned that human settlements offered alternative feeding opportunities that were worth exploiting despite the risks involved. The fossil record shows that encounters between humans and giant ground sloths often involved entire groups of humans being killed simultaneously, suggesting that these massive predators were capable of attacking and overwhelming multiple victims in rapid succession. Their enormous size and reach allowed them to strike multiple targets without having to move between attacks, creating massacre scenarios that must have been absolutely terrifying for any surviving witnesses. Archaeological sites across the Americas contain evidence of human attempts to defend against ground sloth attacks, with spear points and other weapons showing damage patterns consistent with being used against these massive creatures. However, the size and strength differential meant that human weapons were largely ineffective against ground sloths, creating situations where humans had few options other than flight when confronted by these plant-eating killers. The seasonal movements of giant ground sloth populations created additional hazards for early human communities. During migration periods, or when following seasonal food sources, large numbers of ground sloths might pass through areas normally considered safe for human habitation. Their willingness to supplement their diet with human prey meant that these migration events could result in concentrated predation that devastated human populations. The coexistence period between giant ground sloths and early humans represents one of the most unusual predator-prey relationships in the archaeological record. The idea of massive herbivores turning to hunting and consuming human prey challenges many assumptions about prehistoric ecosystems and demonstrates the desperate measures that even gentle giants would take when environmental pressures became severe enough. The extinction of giant ground sloths approximately 10,000 years ago removed one of the most unexpected and terrifying threats that early human populations ever faced. These creatures represented a form of predation that was both psychologically traumatic and physically devastating, being hunted and killed by animals that should have been gentle herbivores but had been transformed by environmental pressures into man-eating monsters that could tear humans apart with claws designed for gathering vegetation. As we reach the end of our journey through prehistory's Hall of Nightmares, one truth becomes inescapably clear. The comfortable safety of modern human life is an anomaly in our species' long and terror-filled history. For millions of years, our ancestors lived every day knowing that they were not the dominant predators on Earth. They were prey animals, constantly hunted by creatures so perfectly evolved for killing that they seem like monsters from our darkest imagination. The leopards that dropped silently from trees to crush children's skulls. The giant eagles that snatched the helpless from open ground and carried them screaming to their deaths. The massive short-faced bears that could outrun horses while standing 12 feet tall. The saber-tooth cats with fangs like curved daggers, evolved specifically for precision killing. The dire wolf packs that coordinated attacks like military units. The terror birds that delivered death with beaks designed like war hammers. The ancient crocodiles that hunted equally well on land and in water. The cave hyenas that followed humans into their supposed refuges and crushed bones with laughter echoing through the darkness. The giant constrictors that killed slowly and silently, leaving no trace of their victims. The coordinated hyena death squads that could reduce entire human groups to scattered bone fragments. Each of these predators represents millions of years of evolutionary refinement, natural selection, honing killing machines to a degree of efficiency that modern humans can barely comprehend. They weren't just large animals that occasionally threatened our ancestors. They were the dominant forces that shaped human evolution itself. Our intelligence, our cooperation, our use of tools, our complex communication systems, our social structures, even our deepest fears and anxieties. All of these human characteristics were forged in the crucible of constant predation pressure. The psychological legacy of this prehistoric reign of terror lives on in our modern behavior. Our fear of darkness and shadows, our instinctive scanning for movement in peripheral vision, our discomfort in open spaces where we feel exposed, our protective instincts toward children, our tendency to sleep in elevated locations. These aren't learned behaviors. They're genetic programming burned into our DNA by countless generations of ancestors who survived because they feared the right things at the right times. Consider the mathematics of survival our ancestors faced. Some estimates suggest that up to 10% of early humans fell victim to predation, a mortality rate so staggering that it would have shaped every aspect of human society. Every decision, from where to make camp to when to venture out for food, had to account for the presence of multiple species of highly efficient killing machines. The constant stress of living under such predation pressure may have been one of the primary drivers of rapid brain development in early humans. But perhaps, most remarkably, our ancestors didn't just survive this gauntlet of prehistoric horrors. They eventually overcame it. Through intelligence, cooperation, and technological innovation, humans gradually shifted from prey to predator. The same creatures that once hunted our ancestors are now extinct, while humans have become the dominant species on the planet. It's one of the most dramatic reversals of fortune in evolutionary history. Yet we should never forget the price paid for this transformation. Millions of our ancestors died screaming in the jaws of predators whose very existence seems impossible to modern minds. Entire populations were wiped out by creatures that turned killing into an art form. The scattered bones found in prehistoric predator dens represent not just individual tragedies, but the accumulated suffering of countless human beings who lived and died in a world where safety was an impossible dream. The extinction of these mega-predators wasn't necessarily a triumph of human superiority. Climate change, ecosystem collapse, and the disappearance of the massive prey species that supported. Prehistoric predator populations all played crucial roles. Humans may have simply been the beneficiaries of environmental changes that eliminated their most dangerous enemies. In a very real sense, we didn't defeat these prehistoric monsters. We outlasted them. This perspective should inspire both gratitude and humility in modern humans. We live in perhaps the safest period in human history, surrounded by technologies and social structures that would seem like magic to our terrorized ancestors. We sleep peacefully in our beds, unaware that we're doing something our species couldn't do safely for millions of years. We walk confidently through forests and open spaces where our ancestors would have been paralyzed with fear. But the memory of those ancient terrors lives on in our genes, in our instincts, and in our dreams. Every horror movie monster, every nightmare creature, every fear of being hunted in the dark. These are echoes of very real threats that once stalked our species, through a world where humans were just another item on the menu of creatures so perfectly adapted for killing that they ruled entire continents through fear alone. The story of humanity's survival against impossible odds is perhaps the greatest adventure tale ever told. It's a story of intelligence triumphing over brute force, cooperation overcoming individual weakness, and determination outlasting even the most perfect predators. Every human alive today carries the genetic legacy of ancestors who somehow managed to survive in a world populated by monsters. And that survival represents one of the most remarkable achievements in the history of life on Earth. As we face the challenges of the modern world, we would do well to remember that we are the descendants of the most successful prey species in planetary history. Our ancestors looked into the eyes of creatures that could kill them in seconds and found ways to survive, to adapt, and ultimately to thrive. That same resilience, intelligence, and capacity for cooperation that saw our species through the dark ages of prehistory remains with us today, a living testament to the incredible will to survive that defines humanity itself.